Happy Easter. So today we're going to be talking about an Eggman, not from Sonic, but from One Piece. I think Baron Tamago could be the father of Charlotte Smoothie, Charlotte Cinnamon, and Charlotte Citron. Let's get into it. So, what's very interesting about Baron Tamago off the bat is that he is the first Longleg tribe member that we meet in the series. This is very interesting because much like Pooh, who was the first Long Arm tribe member that we meet in the series, it has to make you wonder why Oda chose him to be the first. It's just an interesting thought. Much like how, too, Beppo was the first mink that we were introduced to in the series, and he turned out to be one of the most powerful minks in the entire tribe, being a polar bear mink and having a terribly strong Sulong transformation. So it makes you think, why was Baron Tamago the first long leg tribe member to be shown off? Not only that, his devil fruit is super weird because we later find out that he is a Zoan and being a user of the egg fruit, because unlike all the other Zoans in the series, he actually has to be injured mortally in order to regenerate from a puddle of yolk into the next life cycle stage of a chicken. So it goes egg, chick, full rooster. And each time he transforms, he gets a different title of nobility, which I don't know what's up with that. So you have Baron Tamago, Viscount Hyoko, and then Count Niwatori. So I don't know why that is. And two, he's the only member of the Big Mom family that's not a Sweet Commander or Big Mom herself who gets these weird nobility titles. I don't know what that's about. But on top of that, when you look at his supposed daughters in this situation, Smoothie, Citron, and Cinnamon are half Longleg tribe members because their mother is Big Mom. So most likely the Longleg gene could come from Baron Tamago. Not only that, it's very impressive that Smoothie in the series is the first Yonko commander to not be a full-blooded human, as she is a part of the Longleg tribe, because before her, the only Yonko commanders that we knew of were humans that were on both Whitebeard's crew and Shanks's crew, as at the time we weren't introduced to the makeup of the Beast Pirates under Kaido. So that in itself is interesting. However, all of them have these weird egg motifs as well. When you look at Smoothie, the weird adornments on her boots, as well as her hat and elbow guards, have this weird egg theme to them. The adornments on her boots look like Fabergé eggs. They also resemble the eggshell crack that Tamago wears throughout his various transformations, especially when he is Baron Tamago. Then, the hat that Smoothie wears, as well as her elbow pads and the elbow pads of Charlotte Cinnamon, they all have this weird yoke motif. They look like what Tamago looks like when he's in his yolk state, as he is this yolk-like blob with these two beady eyes. So these items of clothing on these women look like him in this state. Charlotte Citron, very funnily, just looks like an egg. Like she is an egg-shaped woman. So that too is quite interesting. However, Smoothie and Tamago actually have an interesting working relationship, as they have a very casual conversation in chapter 846, in which he's explaining the seriousness of the situation with Pedro being here and how important the poneglyphs are to the organization, to Smoothie. And even though Smoothie outranks Tamago in the organization, she trusts his judgment. Then, in that same scene, both of them are drinking. Here's what's interesting about this. Both of them have a liquid theme as well, because the hat that Tamago always wears is actually a cup of coffee or tea on a saucer. Those are the components that make up his hat. And the teacup is always full because we see him drinking out of it as well in Fishman Island. So at the same time where he is drinking this beverage in chapter 846, Smoothie is drinking as well after she freshly wrung out a woman for her fluids. Smoothie, of course, too, is named Smoothie, a type of beverage. So getting back to their working relationship, it's clear that Smoothie respects Baron Tamago's knowledge on what the poneglyphs mean for the organization and the inventory of what kind of poneglyphs that they have. This working relationship is then further expounded upon in chapter 848, where Smoothie apologizes to Baron Tamago over Din Din Mushi, where she discovers that Brook has slipped past them and locked himself within the treasury. What's funny about this scene too is that Smoothie's Din Din Mushi also looks like an egg. But continuing on with motifs and comparisons, both Smoothie and Tamago have their eyes obscured, as Smoothie wears her hair over one of her eyes. Tamago is often seen with sunglasses, but is actually missing one of his eyes due to a prior fight with Pedro. Continuing on with that, both Tamago, Cinnamon, and Smoothie are swordsmen. So maybe Cinnamon and Smoothie learn their swordsman skills from Tamago. We'll have to find out in the future, maybe. Then on top of that, Tamago and Smoothie have very similar color schemes because Smoothie's color schemes are white, pink, and yellow, mainly. Tamago also goes through those same colors in his various transformations, pink, white, and yellow. As his Tamago state, his egg state, is mostly pink and white. Then when he becomes Viscount Hiyoko, he is white, yellow, and pink. This then brings us to Count Niwatori, in which he is a light pink and white. So I say that to say that too is quite interesting, especially seeing as how they have a very close working relationship. I should also mention that Smoothie's hair is white. Continuing off of that, what is interesting is that you could say all of them together have a breathix motif, as Tamago is an egg. You have eggs for breathix. Tamago wears a cup of tea or coffee on his head. Both beverages are used as accompaniments to a meal at breakfast time. The same thing goes for a smoothie. A smoothie can also be just a single item that one has for breakfast, or a liquid that is included with the meal of breakfast. Then you have Charlotte Citron. A citron is one of the original citrus fruits. It too is quite egg-shaped, but citrus is a beverage that is often included in breakfast in the form of, say, a fruit juice like orange juice or grapefruit juice. So in that way, I can see how citron fits in with that as well. And then when you get to cinnamon, cinnamon is a spice that is usually used on items that you could have at breakfast, such as a latte or an ingredient in French toast. What's funny about this is that even though French toast doesn't necessarily come from France, it comes from Rome, but it is quite funny that Baron Tamago will randomly say French words in his regular speaking voice. So I just wanted to point that out. With that being said, give me your thoughts and tell your friends about Polypede. What?